Let's take a look at what the AP did in ranking in Week 10. And the first thing that we have to take advantage of and take a listen of is Miami leapfrogging Texas. Miami beat Florida State, but at this point, who ain't beat Florida State? They are 1-7. That is not a good football team, and they started their third different quarterback so far this season with DJ Uiagalelei taking notes in a cast. It wasn't a decisive victory from the standpoint of Cam Ward, who was held to just 208 yards passing, but Damian Martinez really did come on. 15 rushes, 148 yards, 2 TDs against that Florida State defensive front that we thought was going to be really good. But Texas goes on the road and beats a top 25 Vanderbilt, and I think that ought to count for something. I realize that Miami is undefeated, but I believe that Texas has played a tougher schedule, and they've beaten opponents with numbers next to their names a little bit more often than Miami has. I really don't have a problem with Penn State at number 3 and Ohio State at number 4. That's going to work itself out this weekend when those two play in Big Noon. And number 7, they got Tennessee. Number 8, Notre Dame goes up 4 spots after stomping a mud hole in Navy and walking it dry. Notre Dame has only had a problem with teams that are unranked. They have won their last 5 against ranked opponents, and they have scored at least 2 rushing TDs in 10 consecutive games. And that's who they are this year. They're running the football and playing outstanding defense, even without Benjamin Morrison on that sideline. In that secondary. 265 rushing yards they had against Navy, and 6 turnovers for Al Golden's defense. BYU at number 9, I'm fine with that. They were decisive in their win against Central Florida. They look like one of those teams that's going to make the Big 12 championship. A&M moves up 4 spots after beating LSU, and LSU just its second loss of the season. Nobody's been able to run the football on A&M this year, and they have been able to run it well. I love the move to get Marcel Reed in there with the second half because you change the quarterback and then you commence to blowing out LSU. It helps that Garrett Nussmeier throws you 3 interceptions, even as he threw for over 400 yards. Clemson at number 11, down 2 spots. They're on a bye. I'm okay, sure. They'll probably be there at the end, along with a couple of other ACC teams, including Miami, that we need to talk about. Iowa State at number 11, looking to go 8-0, first time ever, right? They went 7-1-1 in that 1938 season where they got off to a 7-0 start. They have an opportunity, like one other team behind them, Indiana, at number 13, to really do something that's unprecedented. While we got Clemson and Iowa State ranked at number 11 in a tie here. I like ties. They're good. Indiana has never won 9 games. Indiana has never won 10 games. They've won 9 games just twice, 1967, 1945. So they could win 9 games for only the 3rd time in their history and 10 games for the first time ever. And they got 4 games left to do it with. And the toughest opponent they have left is Ohio State, which would be an outstanding game, I think. Sneaky good as we're getting closer to that. Bama at 14 blanks Missouri 34-0. Helps that Brady Cook was not playing in that game for the second half, and Drew Pine was cheeks, like just really, really, really bad. And I'm not sure that Missouri is going to be able to do much if Brady Cook can't go for them. Boise State at number 15, they sneaked past UNLV, but UNLV was the first team to really kind of sort of hold Ashton Jeanty in check. We're talking about 33 rushes for 128 yards being held into check. It's not bad, man. That dude is special, but I'm not sure that Boise State's going to be able to hold this spot if they keep playing close games. Now, UNLV is a good football team, but we'll see. LSU drops to 16 after the loss, 8 spots down, losing it to A&M on the road. Kansas State drops a spot after beating Kansas in a close ball game. What has happened to Kansas, man? Kansas 2-6 this year, while Kansas State 7-1, looking like they're waiting on BYU or Iowa State to drop a game so they can slide in to the Big 12 championship. 18 Pittsburgh, they're 7-0. And this is a program that has been good in a few years ago. 2021, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Addison. This year, they're back to being good. And I get an opportunity to remind people Pittsburgh is one of the best kept college football secrets in the country, right? Tony Dorsett, 1976 Heisman. 1976 national champion Johnny Majors ends up going to Tennessee to make the real name for himself, even as he won a national championship at Pittsburgh. Dan Marino, Aaron Donald, Darrell Rivas, Larry Fitzgerald. We can keep going. Shady McCoy. They have produced dudes out there, and it looks like they're producing dudes once again. Number 19, Ole Miss. They're down a spot after beating Oklahoma, which doesn't mean as much as it used to now that Oklahoma's down to 4-4. Southern Methodist in a close win against Duke. They're 7-1. They, along with Pitt, are challenging. It's them, it's Pitt, it's Clemson, and it's Miami there. The ACC is getting to be a little bit more fun now. Army at 7-0. They're on a bye. We'll see if they can keep that up. And Washington State gets here in 22. I don't agree with this. Washington State's best win so far this season is Washington, and Washington is not very good. Navy took the loss, and it was lopsided against Notre Dame 51-14, but Notre Dame is a good football team who lost to directional Illinois, and Navy has a win against Memphis, who is 7-1 and looks like they are still going to contend for the AAC title. I don't think that Wazoo needs to be here, but you know what? I stayed up to watch that close game against San Diego State too. Number 23, Colorado. They finally get into this thing for the AP. They were in this thing for me last week. They actually got him at 23. I got him at 24. Colorado is 4-1 in conference play, 6-2, dog. Like, they're waiting on Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU to drop a game so they could slide into the Big 12 championship. Travis Hunter, 9 catches, 153 yards in the win, 2 tackles, and 4 pass breakups. A lot of talk about his shoulder, and then he goes out there and styles on a Cincinnati program that was 5-2 heading into that game and was looking like one of those teams that was really, really good. And now we're talking about Colorado maybe sort of kind of sliding in to the Big 12 championship, as the second half of their schedule does not look as hard as it did at the start. They're going to finish with Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas. They could win all of those games, and those teams aren't that good this year, while Colorado is trending in the right direction. Illinois falls to 24, 4 spots down after getting beat 38-9 by the number 1 team in the country, that is Oregon. It wasn't close. Since beating Ohio State 32-31, Oregon has outscored opponents 73-9, and Dylan Gabriel has averaged 290.5 passing yards per game. Missouri at 25 after the loss to Alabama. It's really like, are you going to put Missouri there or Vanderbilt there? Missouri beat Vanderbilt, so I get that. Memphis at 34. I kind of get that. Their losses to Navy, right? If you want to put somebody in there, put somebody in there that beat Navy too. Tulane at 28. Navy at 23. Louisville at 5. Arkansas at 4. UNLV at 4. Louisiana at 3. Louisiana undefeated in the West Division of the Sun Belt. It's really been them and ULM battling back and forth. In South Alabama knocked off ULM, a team I picked dead last in the 134 rankings, who has turned out to be really good. ULM turns out to be really good. Indiana turns out to be really good. Vanderbilt turns out to be good. USC, mediocre. Michigan, mediocre. Oklahoma, mediocre. Wisconsin, mediocre. Kansas, bad. Like, it's really been a topsy-turvy time here in college football. And then South Carolina getting the vote. They get a chance to play A&M this Saturday. And this South Carolina team has looked capable, kind of like Kentucky, of winning every game they play and losing every game they play. Like, I just can't call it. It's fun either way, though, because both of those teams, South Carolina and Kentucky, are right where you would expect them to be in a normal SEC season. What I love is that really the fulcrum is still the same. Like, the balance, it's still going to be what it is. I think more than anything else, we're going to see how far Colorado can move up this thing, given what they have left on the schedule, and then given that if you're looking at it, who else on their schedule do you expect to beat them? Because they don't play BYU, Iowa State this year. Like, that, I think, is going to be a very interesting team to keep an eye on, if for no other reason than it feels like they've already played the toughest opponents on their schedule. And while I am thinking about this, they're going into a bye. And who they have left with their last 4 games? They have Texas Tech. It's a tough team, but they lost Baron Morton to what looks like a season-ending injury. We'll see. Utah is bad. Kansas is bad. And Oklahoma State is bad. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to finish 10-2. Not bad for a team that I didn't think was capable of this. Full stop. Like, I didn't. They're reached bowl eligibility for the first time since 2020. They are turning into an outstanding program. And now you got to talk about Prime entering the category of Coach of the Year. If they get to 10 wins and get to a Big 12 championship, it's locked up. It's his, as is the Heisman Trophy for Travis Hunter, while Shedeur Sanders is still cooking people through the air. Very excited about what this Colorado program could be up to. And you know what? They could be a fringe college football playoff team if you're not on your P's and Q's, Big 12.